What is up, winning team? Guys, I had to stop to make this video because I'm actually in shock. I'm actually in shock because, so I got a message today I wasn't expecting, and I just don't really know how to respond to this. Well, I've responded to the message, but I just don't know. I don't know what I'm thinking of, but I'm in shock. Also, shout out to God for providing the backdrop for this video, for being the producer of my set. Shout out to the Lord. Look, don't we love nature? I was just taking photos and I just saw the cutest squirrel. Oh my gosh, they are so cute. Anyway, I'm just glad to see they're still thriving, despite the fact we've been cutting all the freaking trees down. Anyways, I'm avoiding getting into the topic. So, I got an apology. This is what happened. I got sent an apology and I was taken aback. So I was getting ready to do my midday, go on a walk, go out in nature, gather my thoughts. It's mental health for me. It's like nature is like my drug of choice, because this is where God is. God is out here in nature amongst the trees, amongst the animals. The air is fresh. It's just so good for the soul, right? So honestly, my ankles look sick in these Jordans. I don't even care. Anyway, not important. I'm getting distracted by how good. Anyway, and I was just as I was getting ready, I received this message, and I was like, now I'm not going to say who apologized to me, right? Because I have to. What I will say is, I have mentioned what this particular trauma that happened, that this person was involved with, I have mentioned multiple times on the channel. What I will say, it's not somebody I'm related to, just to clear that up. And I was just in shock that somebody apologized. And you know what it is, right? And this is what I'm thinking. I have so many issues, it's actually horror. This is why I think if me at this point, after all the work I've done with the Lord, has this many issues still, then people who are not doing deliverance and healing and stuff, this is what I'm saying, that I think that we really need serious help from the Lord. He really has to just do miracles with us, because dude. So anyway, I'm just so in shock that somebody actually apologized to me. That's what it is. I'm actually so in shock. Someone apologized to me. I'm just in, and so sincerely about something so severe, right? And it's weird because if you'd ask me, who are the people I feel wronged by, and I don't really think about that often, to be honest with you, because I feel like we all wrong everyone, and everyone's the villain in someone's story. There's people who are the villains in my story, but I'm also the villain in some people's stories as well. So we've all sinned and short of the glory of God. You know what I mean? But if you had to ask me something like that, I don't think I would class this person in that list. I would say that they definitely severely, if the situation was definitely in the top 3 most traumatic things I've ever been through. I could put it like that. And so, yeah, I did not anticipate, because the amount of humility it would take, I think, to be on that side, based on what I went through as a result. I think it would be really hard for anyone to humble themselves enough to take accountability for something so deep and so severe, right? And I never was expecting any kind of apology, to be honest with you. And not to say that I didn't think that they would care to, because I actually think it was a person who had good intentions, you know what I mean? Or, I feel like a lot of the things in life, like I say to you guys, the reason why I don't really not forgive anybody or hold resentment towards people is because I always think about all the circumstances that come into why people behave the way that they do. So it's kind of like, when I can understand their life, what they've been through and their circumstances, it's kind of hard to harbor unforgiveness, believe it or not. The only thing I will hold on to is if I just don't have respect. And that's kind of where I was at with this person, is I will lose respect. And once I've lost respect for somebody, there's no chance of you being in my life in any capacity, because I just don't respect you, and like I'm not going to be nice. I'm not nice to people. I can be quite vicious and horrible to people that I don't respect. So I just keep myself away from them in general to save from all of that. So I had lost a lot of respect for this person based on what happened. And they were definitely in the list of people that I've known who I respected the least until now. Because now they've shot all the way up to like one of the people I respect the most because of all the things that people do in life and of all the mistakes and or traumas that people endure and all this stuff. In this individual's position, I don't think a lot of people would have had the bollocks to actually bother to apologize, especially for something that happened years ago. And especially because they don't have to see me. Like we're not, like I'm saying, we're not blood related where there's going to be chances where I might get invited to this and they might get invited to that. Or, you know, we don't live in the same places. Don't hang around the same people. So it's like, there's no real reason. They don't have to. But they said it was weighing on their conscience. And this is something I wanted to mention to you guys, because this is like what I'm saying. Like, I feel so kind of shocked, but also just kind of happy for both of us, like, because I feel like now going forward, hopefully this person doesn't harbor this on their conscience, because I didn't realize that this was bothering them so much, because they're like, yeah, this has been weighing on my conscience. And it's actually kind of crazy for me because, again, this person's actually in my own generation, or at least the generation above me, like a millennial. And it's so crazy because I have a family member of mine who is of the older generation, like I think they're in their 80s or something, who just recently apologized, or said they wanted to apologize, because they feel like God had put on their conscience for a while that certain things had gone wrong. And when I got the apology initially, I heard about the apology because it wasn't given to me directly as of yet, which is not necessarily that person's fault because I don't have my contact details. But when I first initially heard about that, I was like, you know, kind of like impressed, like, wow, I'm surprised one of you older folks actually found it within yourselves to actually humble yourselves. I mean, of that generation in general, because like I said to you guys, anything that happens to me isn't different to anything that's happening to anyone. So I'm always talking about everybody at the same time. Like, even if I'm talking about myself, I'm talking about myself as an example of what's happening around across the board. Does that make sense? So it's not about me and it's not about my story only. It's about our story as humans, as humanity, and what we're all going through together as humans, because we're all here together. Whether we like it or not, all of us who are alive today are one single community as well, you know? So anyway, so at first I was kind of like, oh, wow, you know, I'm so grateful. And I am grateful because I'm like, you know, at least somebody's, you know, found the bollocks to do it. But then afterwards, I thought how sad it is that for all these years, like all this time that's lost, all this opportunity that could have been had for at least mine and this person's relationship. I only speak for myself, but there's a lot of people involved. Mine and this person's relationship, how different things could have been, like all the missed opportunities, all the things that could have happened. And it wasn't that I, for example, was harboring resentment against them or unforgiveness against them. It's that because there's this elephant in the room and you're uncomfortable and I'm uncomfortable, it makes things uncomfortable and we just can't. Some things, it just gets to a point where you can't pretend that there's not an elephant in the room and you can't just ignore the elephant. And that's what I feel like ends up happening when we're unable to humble ourselves and when we ignore what's on our conscience, because you have holding something on your conscience, you're going to behave as somebody that's guilty. I do it myself. Like, that's why I apologize immediately. I immediately apologize, like, about things like, so even the other day, you know, guys, I was telling you about how I was just sending crazy messages to individual in question. I went and apologized because it was bothering me, like, you know, just thinking about it, I was like, no, I need to apologize. So I went and apologized. Like, this is what I'm saying. For me, I'm used to apologizing because I hate that feeling of something on my conscience where I feel like somebody's owed an explanation and is owed an apology for them, but also for me, but it's for both of us, you know, in different ways. For them, they deserve for it to be acknowledged that what they experienced, whatever degree of how I've contributed, if it's affected them in any way negatively, they deserve at the very least me to acknowledge what I've done and acknowledge that it's wrong, you know, because that's what was hard for me throughout my life, was just like always wondering, like, well, if no one ever believes my story and no one ever kind of acknowledges, and I'm not even saying apologizing, but acknowledges what I'm saying is actually happened, then it's hard for me to believe those things happened, and then it's hard for me to like deal with them, because that's what I was like dealing with myself, is like, maybe I'm just making stuff up, like maybe I'm making a big deal out of nothing, you know. So for this person, and this particular person, to have apologized about this particular thing, it kind of really highlighted like how actually traumatizing the thing actually was and is, you know, which is crazy, because last night I was really crying about this exact topic, which is so funny, that this person brought up, and I was really, really crying about it, you know. And I was just thinking, you know, how heartbroken I was about, not them, because like I said, I don't blame them really. Like, I feel like I contributed negatively to the situation also. And you know, so I was hurt and disappointed by the things that happened. Anyways, we won't get into it. You know, so, you know, but I, you know, so for them to apologize, and such a lengthy apology that was so specific, and to call themselves out, and to like really kind of bear their heart out, like, it was really just it's just taking me back. I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm just so, and I'm happy, because I feel like now that we can have this conversation, everybody can move, me and this person can both go forward in life, like, without that weight on our shoulders. Like, this is what I mean when I say about why God wants us to do the work, because I feel sad knowing that they were just carrying this whole time. Like, me not knowing that this is how they were feeling. They were even feeling this degree of guilt about the situation. It's like, you didn't have to carry that the whole time, because of course I was always going to forgive you anyway, because I already forgave you. Like, because who am I to not forgive? That's what I'm saying. Like, as believers, who am I not to forgive? You've already been forgiven. The same like the person I was saying, the older person, like, I've already forgave them. Like, the thing about forgiveness, that's what I've said to you guys even about forgiveness, is like, the thing about apologies and forgiveness is something I feel like that's between you and God, are the only ones who ever know if you've truly forgiven somebody, right? And forgiveness doesn't require, you know, that person, it's not about you, I don't know how to describe it, but like, me forgiving somebody, they don't have to apologize to me for me to forgive them. I forgive them because God forgives me, and who is it for me to not forgive anybody? The only thing that will change is, like I said, my respect might change, in which case, if I don't hang around people I don't respect, I don't talk to people I don't respect, because as a winner, that's going to be a waste of time. That's going to lower my market value, because I'm going to be seen with you, and people are then going to look at me as if I'm on your level, and that's harboring my reputation, and I can't afford for that. Also, that I just don't need to be around that wavelength. I don't need that in my energy space. I don't need you to come and contaminate what I have going on. You know what I mean? So, but that's not unforgiveness, that's wisdom. You know what I mean? So for me, you know, when it comes to things like that, like, I forgive everybody. I automatically forgive. I work through my feelings. I might be angry. I might react poorly at first, you know, but ultimately I'll always forgive, because God forgave me. And I know that, you know, life is complicated. We all turned out the way we did for a whole bunch of reasons. It's a result, as I keep saying, this is why I feel like it's so important. It's a result of like all of the actions of all of humans from the beginning. The cumulative actions all together brought us to where we are today. So really, if we're going to go play the blame game, we're going to just have to blame everybody. You know, so that's why I'm quick to forgive anyone for anything. But, you know, it doesn't mean there's not still, you know, all these other feelings that come into the mix. Like I was saying, this situation, because of this nature of what it was, and how few people I opened up to it about the time and everything. Hold on. Yeah, so sorry guys. Oh my gosh, these guys are collecting the bins, like the public bins, and they took a phone call and they literally just stopped here and were shouting on the phone. It was one of the funniest things. It was like a scene out of a cartoon. Anyway, God bless them. Yeah, so yeah, like when it comes to apologizing, like when it comes to like apologizing, when you apologize to people, I feel like it just breaks something off of the situation, and it's not about unforgiveness. It's about like a shared understanding of like the situation, and just like a moment of like, you know what, like, because now I feel like for this individual and also for me, but for me, I'm actually happier for them, like, because I really didn't know that they was feeling so guilty, and they should not be living in guilt whatsoever about the situation, because like I said, we've all sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. We've all made mistakes, so I don't believe anybody should be living in guilt. That's why I feel like holding on to the pride of not being able to humble yourself is so annoying, because it's like, yes, the conversation might be uncomfortable, and like, yes, you like might have to acknowledge you embarrassed yourself, and you might feel a bit of shame, and you might, like, it's uncomfortable. The thing is, the one thing I feel like about me that I appreciate is, because I'm a bit chaotic and I'm so just like all over the place and impulsive and all this, I find myself having to apologize so much, and it's helped me to actually, and because of that, I'm happy for that part of myself, for the fact that it makes it easy for me to apologize, where I really feel like I've done wrong. And then I feel like I live a more free and light life than a lot of people. That's why I feel like I'm so vibrant and I'm so energetic, and I'm just like ready to do this all the time, because I'm like, I'm not carrying all these weights of things. Like, if I can do something about something, I do it and I address it, if I've done something wrong, as soon as I've realized. Now, the problem is if I haven't realized, which is why I think, again, it's important to actually tell people when they've done something wrong. Like, there was this situation going on in social media, and I'm not going to get into it because it's not really important. But anyways, there's a person in a particular group of corner of the internet that I'm not really in, but I kind of partake in slightly. This is what I'm saying. And there was this one person that everybody's exposing, and all of a sudden everyone's coming out with all these stories about what this person has done. And I'm like, you know what? There becomes a point where, when you haven't told somebody that they've done something, how are they supposed to know that they've hurt you? Because a lot of people right now in the world are harboring resentment. This is the other thing I don't do, is I don't hold somebody, I don't get upset with anybody for something that I haven't actually, told them I'm upset about, you know what I mean? Because unless it's something objectively clear, like if you beat me up, then I don't think I have to explain that I didn't want to be beaten up, you know what I mean? But like, if somebody does something to hurt me and I recognize they might not have realized that what they were doing was going to hurt me, then I'm not going to hold them accountable or harbor unforgiveness, because I haven't actually bothered to tell them. And a lot of people do that as well. That's something else that I truly hate, because I've experienced that a lot myself. It's another one of the things I truly hate about humans, is just like, when you have an issue with somebody. This happened to me with someone, where they brought it up an issue, right? They brought up an issue to me. No, they didn't bring up an issue to me. They found out about an issue I had with them, and it wasn't because I told them. It's because they went in, let's just say, crossed my boundaries to find this information. When they found the information that I was between me and God and me, they pulled me up on what I was saying and whatever. And then, lo and behold, decided to tell me about things they weren't happy about, things that had gone on for like years even. And I was like, you never told me that. How am I supposed to know? Like, this is why I don't like relationships, you guys, because I feel like people do stuff like that. And I hate that, because I'm like, because you mean all this time you're just sitting there and you could have just told me and I could have just changed it in an instant. Like, I hate that. Or I could have just apologized. Like, I didn't mean to hurt you. Like, I didn't mean to upset you. I didn't get it. You know what I'm saying? So let me know, you know what I'm saying? Similar to the thing I keep mentioning about my brother and bullying my brother growing up, both of them really, for a lot of it. I'm somebody that likes people to rip me into shreds. Like, I've always been that kind of person. I've always been somebody who likes dark humor, like aggressive jokes, like I love when people lash into me. I love if you make a joke say something about me that's true, as long as it's funny, right? Even if it's extreme. So for me, I don't really take it to heart when people do that to me. So I didn't realize for a long time that other people would take certain things to heart, because it's not my experience and nobody ever told me. And like, there's so many things where I'm just like, nobody ever told me, and I'm the villain in so many things of things I didn't know because I was never told. Where it's like, if you just told me, I would have just changed. Because like, now, obviously, the way that I deal with my brothers is different. Like, I don't lash into them, because obviously part of the thing is I'm their older sister. So like, what I say to them does matter and stuff. So obviously I know that now there's certain jokes that I would just now think and not actually make, because I appreciate that, like, oh, this might be a bit this might be super hurtful. You know what I mean? Even though I'm not intending for it to be. And that's why I'm saying that it's like not being able to humble ourselves and have these conversations doesn't help anything. And like this person now, me and them can both go off in life without this being another, they can go off without the baggage of guilt and of this heavy conscience, knowing that, hey, look, just so you know, like, you know, that's fine. Like, I also apologized for where I felt like I had gone wrong. You know what I mean? And they can go on with their life without this weighing on them, and I can go out through my life now actually feeling like somebody's validated this experience, because it's really hard to sometimes to like fight for myself and be trying to do all this like healing and stuff when it's like no one even acknowledges my reality, right? And so it's like, it's hard for me to acknowledge my reality anyway. And then that's where I'm like, God, so what is the point? Because if you're saying that I should be able to acknowledge my reality alone, why do I have to keep doing all these things alone? But then you're telling me that I'm supposed to be building relationships. How does that work? It's like people are like, oh yeah, you shouldn't be alone and supported by yourself. But the only person you can ever rely on is yourself. So it's like, so which one is it? Because when I'm only relying on myself, it's an issue. But then when I'm now calling out the bare minimum that I'm asking for from people, that's I'm also asking for too much. So that's why I just think it's all just not worth it. But yeah, so now I feel, and now the thing that I went through, I feel like more like I can actually like process the emotions now that somebody's actually been there to actually acknowledge it with me. Like, so even for them, they might be thinking like feeling bad about it, but I'm actually grateful that like, thank you for actually acknowledging my experience. So it can actually help me work through this. You know what I'm saying? More than how much I have done already, because like I said, it was the topic that it was and just the area of what it was. There's something I was literally last night, I was just there crying about, like, you know, and just out to the Lord, and I was just thinking, God, this is so painful. And so to have just today have seen this and to have heard from this person after all these years, and it's just like, this is growth. This is how we do relationships. This is how life should be. You know, I think loving relationships and healthy relationships are ones where you're going to hurt each other sometimes, and then you just apologize. That's why it's so important. You know, I'd be saying that because you're gonna, as you get to know people, whatever kind of relationship it is, as you get closer and closer, you're going to push each other's boundaries. You're going to upset somebody. You're going to trigger someone. We need to create a safe space. Like, and that's what I've realized, that safe spaces in relationships, they don't really exist like the way people want to think that they do. You don't have the safe space to just open up and be honest and be like, hey, you know what? You hurt me with such and such, because people clap back and, well, you did this or you did this. That's why I think therapy is so helpful for people. I get it, because they have someone they can talk to that's not just going to immediately clap back at them, and they finally just get to have their experience acknowledged and get your things off your chest. Because that's what I feel like. I feel like in any healthy relationship, this is why I do think, as much as I'm against relationships, I feel like it's because I have healthy expectations and people have toxic and want to behave toxically, and I just can't be involved in that. Right? Like, you should be able to have a space for, you share everything you have to say and you say everything you need to say. I'll say everything I need to say and I'll say everything I need to say. I can acknowledge your pain. I can acknowledge your experience. I can acknowledge what I've done wrong, regardless of my intentions, and without my intentions being more important, vice versa. We can hear each other out. We can apologize. I hate this concept of this person's in the right and this person's in the wrong. I don't believe in that. I'm like, what is right and what is wrong? Well, what might be right might be me apologizing or you apologizing or both of us apologizing. It's not about if you're right or if you're wrong or if I'm right or if you're wrong. This is why I feel like with Adam and Eve, again, it's not about is Adam right or is Eve right, which is the conversation all the time. I feel like it's the problem was that there was an enemy that came against them that they both allowed to create an issue between them. That's the enemy. The enemy's there. You guys are not the enemy. This is why I say, I feel like in relationships, it should never be, in any kind of relationship, it's not you are the problem or I'm the problem. It's us versus the problem. There is a problem. And it might be that right now I am upset with you or you're upset with me or we're upset with each other. But whatever the situation is, that's the problem over there. It's us versus the problem, not us versus each other. And that's what's the one thing that I've realized human beings cannot do. Once again, another reason why I don't really want to participate in these relationships these days, because I'm not going to look at you as the problem, because I'm always going to lose out, basically, is what I've learned, because I'm not going to look at you as the problem, but then you look at me as the problem, so that equals me as the problem. Do you see how that works? It's simple mathematics. If I'm not looking at you as the problem, but you're looking at me as the problem, then the only thing being called a problem right now is me. So therefore, that's how I've always been the problem. And that's why it's been my problem of always feeling like the problem, because I'm trying to like just be like healthy with people. Like, yes, I make mistakes. Yes, I've done wrong. And the worst thing is when you're dealing with people who are so happy for you to be the problem, the prideful people who can't humble themselves. This is why you can't hang around them. Is then when you now do your right thing of apologizing, if they're not then capable of apologizing back, or at least just accepting your apology, they then ride the wave. And the narcissistic people do this the most. They then ride that wave to like, so you are the problem, so everything is your fault, so it is all you. And then they never have to take accountability for everything. And that's another reason why I keep these kinds of people at arm's length and at a distance. People that I can acknowledge don't have the ability to apologize, I will always keep at a distance. Doesn't matter how great our relationship is, it doesn't matter how good, whatever. If I acknowledge the fact that you are incapable of apologizing, I'm going to keep you at arm's length. Always, because it means that even whatever happens, whether I'm right, you're right, we're both right, we're both wrong, whoever's right, whoever's wrong, when that day comes where we have to talk about it, I'm only ever going to be the one who's in the wrong. And that is unhealthy, because that's not fair on me either. And that's something I've had to learn, like literally just in the last year, to actually defend myself, which I hate having to do. Because again, why do we have to protect? Like, these are the questions I be asking the Lord. Like, why do I have to do so much work to protect myself with people that I supposedly love me? Why do I have to work so hard to protect myself around people that love me, and put up all these boundaries around people that supposedly love me? Why am I making so much effort? If they love me, why would they take advantage? Because for me, again, it goes back to what I said. I apologize to you because I love them. I don't want you to carry the guilt. I don't want to make you feel like more of the problem than you are, because I hate to see it eating you up. Like, this person, I feel so bad for them. Like, that's why I responded immediately. I was like, maybe I'll think about this for a day. And I was like, no, I'm gonna reply immediately, because I don't want them to have to feel like this for a second longer, because how horrible that is. It's horrible when you feel guilty about doing something, especially when you actually feel bad, And so I just, it's one of those things. And so this is why I say all this stuff that I say to you guys, like about everything, where I'm just like, we have to, it's in relationships and love, like our love is in the bin in this world. That's what I'm saying. Love is in the bin. Our relationship, our standard of love is in the bin. We just don't know how to love one another well enough. Like, because like I said, if you love somebody enough and you care about them, you apologize. You apologize so that they get to have the experience and the acknowledgement of what happened to them, and that it was wrong, and that it was an injustice on their behalf, because that is what they deserve. That's what they deserve, because they deserve that. You know what I mean? In the same way, also, why would you cut yourself off the opportunity of living free of the guilt by you also apologizing? Then you don't have to carry that on you, because I feel like so much of what the adult population and how it's turned out is a lot of people are just carrying a lot of stuff that are just unaddressed issues, and it weighs you down. Whether you feel it or not, it weighs you down, because I felt lighter after this experience. I wasn't even the one apologizing. I felt like I was discombobulated. Like, I left the house, I was planning to like listen to music and like talk to the Lord. And I found myself just literally walking in silence and kind of walking slower than usual, because I was just in such shock. And my whole body was just kind of like, whoa, because it was the event itself of what happened was so traumatic, was so traumatic that like for like this level of, for somebody to acknowledge it to this extent and to actually apologize was such like a weight lifted off my mind of like just second guessing myself. Because it's one of those things where I'm like, maybe I'm making a big deal, maybe I'm not making too much of a deal about this. And it's like, no, you weren't making too much of a big deal. Like, what you were feeling and what you were like talking about, it was as severe as you felt it was, and you deserved the acknowledgement that that's what happened and that's how extreme it was. And I'm like, wow, like that was something I didn't expect to be happening to me. And I'm so grateful. Like, I'm so very grateful. And it's just reminding me, like, as I was been going through these emotions, and I'm sharing with you guys, the more I'm talking about it, the more it's making me realize this is why everything I've been saying is so important about humbling ourselves, especially when I've been saying to you guys, like, because I was thinking about my video I was going to record is be like, so, Lord, we're still waiting, like, what's going on? But like, this is why we're waiting. This is part of the reason why God has us waiting, because some of us, he's trying to give some people a chance, like, to humble yourself and do what you need to do while you have the shot, like while you have the chance. do what you need to do, because when the season changes, you know what I mean? When the ark departs, when it's time to head into the, to the promised land, or when it's time for God to send judgment and to kill the firstborn sons of Egypt, you want to make sure you're on the right side. You want to make sure that you're considered a child of the Lord. You want to make sure you've planted your seeds where they need to be planted, right? Because once the whistle blows, there's that moment is going to come. And I think this is the thing I've realized about, the difference between being a child of God and having a fear of God versus a fear of man, where, like I say about, and we've been doing this whole series in about David and Saul, is one of the things for me about just apologizing and stuff, and why I feel the sense of urgency, is because I know my fear of God tells me that if at any moment God does something, I need to be ready. So I believe at any moment God can move. So even if it's not because of the guilt, even if it's not because I care about the person and I believe they deserve an apology or they deserve love, and even if it's not because of those things, the other thing that at least will be there always is the fear of God, of like, oh, God, I'm doing this before God, and God is looking at me. And I honestly feel like having a fear of God is like feeling as if God's eyes are like this on you 24/7, and being aware of that like, hi, by the way, I'm watching you, like I'm watching what you're doing, even when there's nobody there. And so I'm there looking like God is paying attention. And so the more I'm delaying, God is seeing me delaying. He's looking down at his watch going, we're really not going to apologize now. We're really going to wake up another day. We're still holding that in our chest. We're really going to continue another day with that behavior. We're really going to walk another day in pride. We're really going to ignore yet another conviction that the Holy Spirit is giving you. We're really going to do that. Is that what we're doing? And that's exactly what happens. So, these are all just evidences, you guys. And I'm just so grateful for this whole thing. I'm grateful for the apology. I'm not very used to people apologizing to me at all. So that really took me aback, and it actually made me feel like my sense of self-value increased, honestly, because I felt like, wow, somebody actually felt like I was worthy, I was deserving of an apology. So that was really nice. And then the second part was also just like, just how confirmational it was for everything I've been saying, and how hopefully like everybody, both of us can move past this now, and they can go off and live their life without this weighing down on them, and not feeling like it has to paint a picture of them. Because that's the other thing, is when you carry things in your conscience, it ends up becoming the thing that you believe about yourself, and you can't move away from it. You can't just go and live a life, because like, I don't want anybody to be, listen, we say sorry and then go and live your life. Don't go and live feeling like you don't deserve to be happy now because you did something bad one day, or you don't deserve good things. No, you've apologized. It's moved on. It's gone. Like, that's godliness. And I feel like that's why I get it and people don't, because that's worldliness is holding on to things, holding on to grudges. You see the world bringing up stuff that people did 10, 20 years ago. Like, the world is unforgiving. The world brings up the past. The world doesn't forget. The world paints you as, oh, you did this once a cheater, always a cheater, whatever. God doesn't like that. God's like, look, Jesus' blood washes it away. Like, God's like, I forgot about that thing yesterday. Why are you bringing it up? You apologized, you repented. Why are you bringing it up again? Like, God says that to me all the time. It's like, why are you bringing this up again? Like, we've dealt with that. It's gone. Go and live freely. Like, when God says we have freedom in Christ, like, we live freely. These things, they get washed away. That's the beauty of it. We have to do the washing part. That's the apologies and the whatevers, the acknowledgement, the humility. We have to humble ourselves to acknowledge we need washing, but then once it's gone, it's gone. And so, like, I don't want to harbor onto things. That's why I never understood this thing of people not being able to acknowledge things or apologize. I'm like, look, can we just address it so we can move on? That's what I'm saying. That's what I was saying, like, with this member of the older generation in my family. I'm like, wow, if you could have just done this earlier, we could have maybe spent a couple of uncomfortable days, a couple of uncomfortable conversations that would have led to like literally decades worth of just good moments and good vibes, all lost. Because why? Because we couldn't humble ourselves. Like, it's just so sad, and it's in bondage. That's why I'm saying it's so worldly. God just lets things go, and I get it. That's how the world operates, and that's how people operate, because we're worldly and we're human. But the godly way of doing things is you just repent, apologize, and it's gone, it's done. That's why I said God doesn't want us to be even here talking about our sins all the time. He's like, look, you're repenting, you're apologizing, or you're working on it, or we're working on it. Let's focus on what you need to do today to build the kingdom. Like, what's focus on other things? We're working on that. You've been forgiven of that. Let that go. Don't start thinking I can't use you because of X, Y, and Z. It's washed away. It's gone. we're moving forward. Where are we going? You know what I mean? And if we're working on some things along the way, that's also okay, because that's also healthy in relationships. I think people have a lot of expectation for things, for when someone's done something wrong, for things to change overnight. You know, I don't have those kinds of expectations on people again. But a lot of people do. They expect you overnight to do this, expect you overnight to do that. You got to give people time. You got to give people time to process. You got to give, like, this, to me, all these things are just things you do if you actually love somebody. Like, if you actually love a friend, if you actually love a family member, if you actually love your community, if you actually love people, these are just things that you do if you love people. So the fact that I feel like I'm saying this stuff and it's like as if some things that I don't see, that we don't see so enough of, is just proof of what I said. Love don't live here. Anyways, you guys, if life's a game, let's play to win. I'm going to finish my walk and still try to gather my thoughts, because this is kind of insane. But yeah, God bless you all. God loves you. I love you. And I'll see you in my next one.